This is the pond reinvented. I had to start the pond over from scratch because I made a mistake. I put some plants in the lake, and they were only in the lake for a couple of days, but in that time they got leeches. And when I brought them back into the pond, my entire pond got leeches. The leeches started eating the eyes out of my fish. When I got into the pond, I noticed that they were grabbing at my ankles. So I didn't want that. This is my pond, and I decided that I was going to take it back. So I drained it, used a shop vac to get every ounce of mud and water out. And this is the new reimagined pond. When I first bought this house, the pump that was used on the Waterfall was a 1/2-inch pump, which is the same size as a water hose. Well, the hose that I have running right now, which is right there, is a 2-inch hose. And that hose is significantly larger than the one that was being used. I mean, it sounds 4 times larger, but if you look at how areas work, it's actually, or how pipes work rather, it's actually a little bit larger than 4 times. The amount of water coming out is 8 times the amount of water that was coming out when I first bought this house. This is what I always imagined this waterfall to look like. You can see it's definitely got a hill country influence. There's hill country rocks right over here and up here. There's a lot of water coming off, making a nice sound. You can see, look at the fish trying to jump up the waterfall. I mean, that's pretty cool. The fish never did that before. It was like, okay, you see this one right here on the far right? Like, you see how there's a thick stream and a really thick stream. This middle stream right here is what it used to look like by itself. There's so much more water coming off there, and it is awesome. You can just see it oxygenating the water. The fish are loving it, obviously. I had to use 5 containers of caulk because there was so much leakage. You can see some of the caulk right there, a little bit right there. Like, you can kind of see it's the gray stuff, right? A little bit up there. I mean, there were so many leaks that if you turned on the waterfall for an hour, it would decrease the volume of the pond by 1 inch in 1 hour. So couldn't have that. So what I did, I'll take this rock off. You can see it's a 2-inch pipe. I've got it capped, and I've got holes drilled in the bottom there so it can come out and feed down here. I've got these rocks strategically placed because there was splash coming out, and like you can see there's a little bit of splash getting here, but it was soaked before. So I've got these rocks strategically placed to minimize the splash, and I tried to use my best looking rocks for these rocks because they're kind of on display, right? And then the waterfall is the backdrop. So that's what it looks like. I love the sound, absolutely love the sound. You look at all the goldfish coming up. That is crazy. They absolutely love playing. The goldfish never did this before, and if they did, it was like 2 of them, not the whole school. This is really cool. Look at that guy. He just jumped up. He's trying to climb out of the water. That's awesome. I mean, look at that. There's another one, right? That's really cool. They're loving this. So I've got these 3 cinder blocks here. Those are for hibiscus. Going to have some 3 hibiscuses right here, Texas Star hibiscus. They're going to be toes deep there. I'm going to have them in a 15-gallon pot, so a super big pot. This is duckweed right here. I've got it separated from the pickler weed because they have very similar leaves, and so I just have it at the other side of the pond. This is water willow right here. All of this water willow is going into the lake next year. We're supplying plants to Texas Parks and Wildlife to repopulate aquatic vegetation in the lake. And these look really small right now, but there's like 15 cuttings here. They're all cuttings. So yeah, they look kind of small because they're cuttings. And then over here, we have a pickler weed. There was only one pickler weed I was able to rescue. In order to keep these plants, because this is where the leeches were living. The leeches were living in the mud, in the plants. So I had to get rid of all the mud on the plants. I washed all the mud off the plants, and then I left the plants outside in the sun for a day so that any leeches that were on it would get off. I mean, the plants were literally within an inch of their life whenever I put them in a bucket of water at the end of the day. They were so dry. Most of them didn't make it, in fact. These are the ones that did. But, you know, I couldn't have leeches in the pond. Absolutely not. I wasn't going to do that again. I had to drain the entire pond and totally restart over. So that's the only pickler weed I was able to save. These two pumps right here are huge. This is the Waterfall pump, and it is 3,500 gallons per hour. To put that into perspective, this pond is 4,000 gallons. So it can turn over this entire pond in just over an hour. This pump here powers the circulator. I have the circulator on a timer. Okay, goodbye Waterfall. I have the circulator on a timer. And the circulator runs 2 hours every day. The circulator pumps 1,300 gallons per hour out. And so this is turning over the pond, about 2/3 of the pond every day. But what's more important is it's spinning the water. You can already see the current it's developed. It's only been on for a few seconds. You can already see the current it's developed. And you can see the fish are playing in the current over there. I don't know if you can see those guys. But so this stirs the pond a different direction. And it also oxygenates the water. Runs between the frogs that my grandparents got, the stone frogs. So that's kind of cool. This is the nursery. When I rebuilt this, I didn't use bricks. My grandfather used bricks for everything. I used cinder blocks. The cinder blocks are more sturdy, and they have bigger areas for the fish to hide. The biggest problem I have is that the fish will get killed by predators. So there's huge holes in those cinder blocks right there where fish can get in there. Well, what I did is I made this the nursery. So there's river rocks here, and you can't see them right now, but there's holes in those river rocks, really small holes that really baby fish could get into. So underneath that is more cinder blocks, and they're turned a different direction so that if a bird comes from a different direction, they've always got a hiding spot, no matter which way they go. I wanted to give them somewhere to hide. More river rock here. This one has the hose coming up through it, and it also has, you see all those holes? Those holes are just big enough for really baby fish to hide in. And those bricks there, they're facing sideways so that the baby fish can hide in there. So this is the nursery. I'm having, one of the problems I had with the last setup was that not many of the babies made it to maturity. So I'm hoping that with the expanded nursery here, they'll make it to maturity. There's these cinder blocks here are too wide, so that gives a lot of area for fish to hide in. Big fish can get in this way, they can't get out this way, so little fish can occupy this whole area right here. Now another part of my strategy was I wanted the current to go on the outside. So I want the current to go almost like a racetrack, all around the outside here, all around the outside. I want to leave the outside open for current. And then right inside that current, I want to have a layer of plants. These plants are the defense for my fish. I am hoping that the fish will congregate for the most part. I know there's some that are going to come out here and whatever. But I'm hoping that the fish will congregate for the most part in the middle here where they have plants to guard them. Because if the coons try and get in the pond at night, I didn't give them anywhere to get in. This ledge here, if they step on that ledge underwater, they're going to alert the fish that there's something in the pond, right? So I didn't give the coons any avenue to get in this time. Another thing I did is I kind of bolstered up this wall over here because this is a garden now. This is going to be the herb garden, the functional herb garden, not just, for those of you who know me, you know I have a lot of herbs, but this is going to be the herbs that we eat. These are Egyptian walking onions right there. You can see they're growing in really well. There's some Swiss chard. There's some Swiss chard over there. You can't really see it behind the garlic chives. Those are garlic chives. And that's all we've got for now. But I'm just going to put plants in here that we eat, like cilantro and basil and dill. And I'm not going to put anything in here that we don't eat. So this is just going to be a very functional garden. The azaleas here. This is a nod to the past. My grandmother loved azaleas. This was, if not her favorite bloom, one of her top 5. And so this is a nod to my grandmother. This will always stay here, and if it dies, I'll plant another azalea here in her honor. There'll always be an azalea overlooking the pond. I gotta be honest with you. The thing I don't like about azaleas, they only bloom for about 6 months out of the, or 6 weeks out of the year. 6 weeks out of the year. You kidding me? I got trees that'll bloom 6 weeks out of the year. I like stuff that will bloom for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or on and off for 9 months. Those are the things that I like. So the azalea, and I would not have this here, but it will stay here as an honor to my grandmother. This holly here, I believe it's a Yopon holly, but God, it's huge and it grows so fast. I gotta think it's some other kind of holly. So it may be a Japanese holly or something. My grandfather was really into oriental plants. You can see the bark is really cool, just a really neat color in there and kind of a cool texture, and just very old. This plant was planted in 1967 when he built this pond. I mean, my goodness, it's old. These are mountain laurels. I got a couple of mountain laurels growing in there. The mountain laurels supply in Texas dried up this year because all of the mountain laurels this big died in the freeze. We had a really bad freeze, got down to 9 degrees for a week. It was seriously like a Canadian winter. So these 2 mountain laurels, I honestly was going to throw them away, but I can't buy them. To buy this mountain laurel right here would cost me like $70. Seriously. It's like, this thing's like 3 inches tall. To buy a fully grown mountain laurel right now is like $200 to $400. So I'm definitely going to plant these this year. And redbud tree, holding it down right here. Kind of a little structure there. Redbud blooms in the spring. Nice pink, purple pink color. And this is what I got. The sound of this right here, I'm gonna just sit down and just be quiet. Hopefully you can hear the sound. I spent a lot of time perfecting this sound. So what I did is I got the hose and I pointed the hose at the shallow end. I pointed it at a steep angle or a shallow angle. I pointed at a steep angle. I pointed at different angles. I had it under the water, kind of bubbling up. I had it above the water. But what I discovered is this kind of angle and this kind of spray provides the acoustics that is soothing to me.